Okay, let us see. There's one over there. Get my mic on. Okay, we are ready to go. So, Divrei Reb Meir. So, Reb Meir says that the only type of mitzvah that a goy is a muzer on is an erva that Bezin would kill a yid for. So, what about chayve krisos? Reb Meir says chayve krisos, a benoyach is not muzer on. And Rashi is kind enough to give us some examples. Achoisoi, if someone lives with his sister, there's not a chiv Mrs. Bezin there, that's just a chiv kares. Achois aviv, v'achois imoy, v'eishes achiv, v'eishes achi aviv, v'achois ishtoi. All of these women is a chayiv krisos, and therefore, according to Reb Meir, there would be there's no isser for a goy to engage in such a relationship. However, the Chachamim hold, which we hold, is that harba arayis yesh she'ein bezin shel Yisrael memisn alein v'v'nech muzer alein. In fact, even chayve krisos, a goy is prohibited. Okay, so now the Gemara challenges Reb Meir. So I'm at the second to the bottom line, at the bottom of Nun Zayin of a base. The Sover Reb Meir kol erva shebezdin shel Yisrael memisn aleh benoich muzer aleh, and those that there's a chi of chorus. Goyim are not muzaron, but Tanya, we have a brisa that seems to indicate otherwise, because this is what the brisa says: Ger, shahaisai, shahaisa hayrasai, shaloi bikdusha, vilay dasai bikdusha. When he was conceived, his mother was a goy. When he was born, his mother was a yid. And the Rashi tells us, and huadin, if when he was born, he was still a goy and he became a ger later. The main thing is yesh loy she'er ha'im. Any relationship through his mother, like his mother's sister, will be usher to him. But ve'ein loy she'er ha'av. Any relations of his father are not usher to him. Haketat. Let me give you an example. Nasa achaisai minaim. If he married, or if this person was married to his sister with whom he shares a mother, Yosy, he has to get rid of her. Now, this particular example would mean he married her before he became a ger, so it can't be referring directly to the case that we just quoted, where by the time he was born, his mother was Jewish. Rather, it's speaking about a regular goy who married his sister with whom he shares his mother, and then he became Jewish. Yosy, he still has to get rid of her. Mino'av, but if it's a sister with whom he only shares a father, Yikayim, he can keep her. Achas ha'av minoim, if it's his father's sister, but his father shares a mother, so it's a maternal relative, Yosy. Mino'av Yikayim. So we're only concerned about maternal relationships and not paternal relationships. Why is that? So Rashi tells us how this works. The Cholgershon is Gayer Kekatan Shenoilad Achshav V'loya Avaim Ukroivim Dami. We know that once a goy becomes a goy, all of his relatives that were related to him up until that point are no longer related to him because he's a very brand new person. And therefore, there's no relation. Any prior relation that he has is now null and void because he's Kekatan Shenoilad. However, so really all of these arise that we just listed off of Achoisha Me'imoy and Achoisima Me'imoy, all those shall be mutter to him. They're not related to him anymore. However, Umiu Rabbanon hu de Gazar Alei B'chola Asuras Loi B'giyusoi, the Rabbanon said that any woman that you were not allowed to marry when you were a goy, because of the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Noyach, any woman that was ushered to you then are going to be ushered to you now. They're not related to you anymore. It's Mishum Shalo Yoimru, Boy Mukdusha Chamur Lukdusha Kala. We don't want you to say that a goy has more isurim, more kedusha than a yid. V'haraya. These were ushered to me when I was a goy, and then when I became Jewish, they're mutter to me. So because of that, the Rabbanon said that any kurva that's also to a goy, that was also to a goy before he became Jewish, remain also to him even after he becomes Jewish. So hilchach, therefore, nasa achoy seminaim, koidem shenisgaira ima. He married his sister with whom he shares a mother, and she was born before his mother became a ger. So she was born a goy, vinisgaira, and she became Jewish im ima when her mother became Jewish. V'nosa zeh misha gadol, and then he married her after she was nisgair, meaning she is a katan shenoilat. Yosy, he still has to divorce her. You know why? We still treat it like his sister because this girl would have been usher for him to marry as a goy. V'loy garmi ben noyach. He shouldn't have less prohibitions than a ben noyach would have. And it's only midirabbanan shelo yarmu. People are going to say, "Oh, he wasn't allowed to marry his sister before he became Jewish, and now that he became Jewish, he's allowed to marry his sister." The Kasavar Rab Meir, achoisai min ha'em asura livnei noyach. Now, this is all based on the fact that Rab Meir holds that a sister with whom a goy shares a mother, va'afilu achois aviv meneim, or even his father's sister with whom his father shares a mother, or v'achois imay min av, or it's really should read v'achois imay min ha'em, or his mother's sister, but his mother shares a mother with that sister, because it's only maternal relations that a goy is prohibited from. It makes sense, because it's his mother. The Yolaf law, where do we know this from? We know this from the following pasuk. It says, "Me'alkein Yazoiv ish es aviv ve'es imoy," and we're going to darshan this pasuk extensively at the bottom of this amud. It says, "Alkein Yazoiv ish Yazoiv ish es aviv ve'es imoy." The aviv refers to achois aviv. It doesn't literally mean he shouldn't have relationships with his father. It means the sister of his father. The imai doesn't literally mean his mother. And it's referring to his mother's sister with whom they share a mother. Like we are soon going to see is Rebbe Elazar Shita. So whatever we've discussed up until now is not the Shita of Reb Meir that we're focused on. It's the Shita of Rebbe Elazar. Okay. Mino av yikayim. But if it's a sister with whom he shares a father, or if it's his father's sister with whom his father shares a father, that will not be also to the ger. The only type of relations, relative relations, that are also to a goy are maternal relations. Dichsiv v'gam omna achoisi bas avihi achloi basimi. I think Avram told Avimelech, "She's my sister from my father, not from my mother," as if to indicate that a maternal relation would have been prohibited, but not a paternal. Alma basa av shori lahu ubas hahem loy shori lahu. So Eliezer just taught us that any relation that would have been prohibited to a ger, he remains prohibited to that person even after he's Gershon is Gayer. Examples of such people are maternal relatives. So a sister with whom he shares a mother sister with whom she shares a mother, and a father sister with whom he shares a mother. Those are all the Isurim that a Benoach has that carries over even if he becomes a Ger.
What does the Gemara do with that medrash that says that Shimon married Dinah, his full sister?
Shimon was Dinah. They shared a mother and a father.
Yeah, mother was Leah, father was Yaakov.
That would be a problem because the Gemara discusses Adam marrying his daughter and Cain marrying his sister. Right? Cain married his sister. Cain and Hevel had to marry their sister.
Okay, so
who
there
else was
were.
going to marry?
So
Okay,
so there was no one else.
But I'm not sure how they deal with sisters. I am not sure. I'm not sure.
It seems to be ignored here. I don't get it.
Well, the Gemara is going to talk about other people in like Oduns could talk about Oduns, could talk about Avram, but the Gemara does not specifically address the Shvatim. So I'm not sure how, according to that Medrash, that it was his actual sister. I'm not sure how he was able to do that. It's partially from the Sheva Mitzvah Spinaya. Unless we're going to see that according to our mayor, could be you are allowed to marry your sister. Could be according to our mayor, when we work it out, you'd be allowed to marry your sister. We know for sure a mayor holds you could marry your sister. We just
your full sister.
Anybody you don't get chiv misa for. If you marry your sister, it's not a chiv misa, it's a chiv chorus. And our mayor holds a goy is not muzer on the chayiv chorus.
So Shimon held like Rav Meir.
Yeah, it must be. It must be. Yeah. Okay, so let's have a look at.
But would they do something that there would be chayiv chorus on? Yaakov would allow that.
They did. According to that measures, they did. I'm not sure. I don't know the explanation. Yaakov married to a Chayos, right?
Okay, so that was before Matan Torah, but we're talking about a Ben Naya.
So Shtei Chayos is not Muzur to Ben Naya, but a sister is Muzur to Ben Naya. Yeah, again, we'll see. Not according to all Shitas, but according to Rabbi Eliezer, it would be a problem. Okay, so what is this rule of Gersh and Iskayer, Kikot and Shanoilad? Where does that come from? Where does it come from that a Gersh and Iskayer, Kikot and Shanoilad? So there's a very interesting discussion where this comes from. So the one of the Makars is from the Bala Turim. The Bala Turim says, the Bala Turim says, there's a pasuk that says Ger and Yosem. Where does it say Ger Yosem? It says Ger Yosem where it's talking about not treating somebody fairly in din. Where would that pasuk be? Where would that pasuk be? The pasuk discusses somewhere that you cannot show favor or let's look it up, see if it's in Mishpatim. I was relying on David to tell us where it is. Let me look it up in Mishpatim. It's coming up soon. Let's see if it talks about.
Sorry, what pasuk are you looking for?
Something that's somewhere where it says Ger Yosan. And it's about when you're not supposed to influence the din. Here it says Lasata Mishra the Vircha B'Rivoy. Doesn't say it here, Mr. I don't know where it is. I don't know where that pasuk is. But the Bala Turim says that Ger Yasai means that every Ger is by definition a Yasai because a Ger no longer has any relations because he's Kikot and Shanoiladon. So that's one of the Makaris that the Rishonim bring for Ger Shaniskar Kikot and Shanoiladon. But the Meshech Chochmah says that it's referring to a pasuk where after Matan Torah said Shuvu lachem la'aleichem, go back to your relationships, even those that would have otherwise those that would have otherwise been osir. Now that the Torah was given and all the arayas are now mitzvah, nevertheless Shuvu lachem la'aleichem because you're like a Gershon Iskayer and it's Kekot and Shanodadon.
That doesn't fit into the Rashi, and must be who's probably quoting a Medrash that says they were boichim, they were crying, and the reason they were crying
they couldn't go back to those
right.
Right, that would not fit with that Medrash indeed. But that's some of the svaras that are given as to where it comes from. That Gershon is Gayer Kikotin Shenadadam. The other side is, why is it called a ger shenis gayer? Shouldn't it be called a goy shenis gayer? So there are those who say that it's called a Gershonist guy because any goy that becomes a Yid already had something in him. Like it's brought down that all of the Gerim that come to Klal Yisrael, they were really people who, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu, before Sinai went around to ask the nations of the world, do you want the Torah? Even though the nations voted to reject the Torah, but there was a minority of people who voted they wanted the Torah, but they were overruled. All those goyim are the ones that are going to become gerim throughout the generations, and that's why it's called a Gershonist Geyer, because they already had it in them even before they were Megayer. Okay, that is the Shita of Rabbi Eliezer. Now, Dr. Gemara, we're in the middle of a brisa. Rabbi Meir Omer, and this is what we're focusing on, because remember, we're asking a steer in Rabbi Meir. The Rabbi Meir that we learned on Amud Bey said that Chayve Krisos are not osir to a Benoyach. And here Rabbi Meir says, Yosy. Rabbi Meir says, Yosy. 1 second. I'm sorry, this is not the Rabbi Meir that I'm talking about. This is a different thing. What about the mother's sister with whom she shares her father? Really, that shouldn't be usher, according to this Shita, because this Shita holds only maternal relatives are usher. Yet Reb Meir says Yosy, because since it's on the mother's side, we don't want confusion, anything on the mother's side. We're going to asher midrabanan, even though it's not a maternal relation. I'm sorry, so Meir, forget, you have to reject her because we're geyser, and the Chum says Yikayim because it's not a maternal relation. Reb Meir said, Kol erva shehi mishum she'er. Reb Meir says any erva that's because of she'er. Sorry, Kol erva shehi mishum she'er aim. Any erva that has to do with a relationship of the mother, Yosy. But mishum she'er ha'av Yikayim. But if it's a paternal relationship, you don't have to get rid of her. Umuter be'eshes achiv. You're allowed to marry eshes achiv. You're allowed to marry the wife of your brother. So a goy is allowed to marry the wife of his brother. Uve'eshes achei aviv. And he's allowed to marry the wife of his father's brother, of his uncle. V'shar kol aroyos, but all the other aroyos, mutaris loy, will be mutter to the goy. For instance, lasuye eshes aviv, his father's wife will be mutter to him. Nasa isha ubita, what if he was married as a goy to a mother and a daughter, and he becomes a ger? Kansa achas umoitzi achas. He could keep one, but he can't keep both. Ulechatchila lo yichnois. Now, even those who hold that it's mutter be'eshes achiv and be'eshes achayaviv, lechatchila lo yichnois. Meisa ishtoi, if his mother died, mutter bechamoisoi, he would be allowed to marry his mother-in-law. I'm talking about a goy. The ikar the army asher bechamoisoi, and there are those who say he'll be asher his mother-in-law. So, what do we see from here? This was a very long brisa. So Rashi is kind enough to point out the specific halachas that we just learned in Reb Meir's name that contradict what Reb Meir said earlier, that chayve krisos are not asher to a benoyah. So Rashi says over here, here we go. The Ika, the Tani, Asr Bechamoiso, there are those who hold that a ger may not marry his mother-in-law. Hasan Mefarish from my community. Now, here Rashi first says, Katani Mios. We learned two shitas now in this brisa, and we learned from a mayor that he's mutter be'eshes aviv. He's allowed to marry his father's wife, but the problem is by a yid eshes aviv, Bezdin kills. That will be a chiyuv. There will be I believe there's a chiyuv of chenek for that. By eshes aviv, there's a chiyuv misa's Bezdin by a Yisrael. The Alpha P Shebezin Shal Yisrael Mamisim Aleh. So problem number one is, or Meir said on Amid Beis, that any Chayv Mises Bezdin is also for a goy. Yet here, Reb Meir says that it would be usher that it's mutter be'eshes aviv, and that according to Reb Meir on Amid Beis, where there's a Chayv Mises Bezdin for, should be also to a goy. V'chein bechamoisai. Chamoisai also is a Chayv Mises Bezdin, therefore it should be also to a goy. Yet here Reb Meir says it's mutter to a goy. That's question number one. And question number two is on the flip side. Who is Osir? Who is Osir in the Reb Meir over here on Amar Aleph? The Katani Osir b'achoisai u'b'achoisoviv. He's not allowed to marry his sister and his father's sister, v'achoisimoi, and his mother's sister. He's not allowed to marry all these people, even though there's only a chi of course for that by Yisrael. Vav bishin bezin shal Yisrael mamizn aleim. So we have over here a stira between Reb Meir on Amud Beis and Reb Meir on Amud Aleph, and it's a stira in two ways, because we've proven certain notion where there's a chiyuv mises bezdin on for Yisrael, yet Reb Meir holds it's mutter for a goy to marry on Amud Aleph. And the second question is, we found items where Reb Meir holds that it's mutter to a goy, even though there's chiyuv bezdin. Now we found Yisurim that Reb Meir holds is also to a goy, even though it's only a chiyuv kares. So that is the question that the Gemara has. Zok the Gemara, loy kasha. This stira that we've just identified between Reb Meir on Amud Beis and this Reb Meir on Amud Aleph is not a stira, because Harab Meir aliba de Rab Eliezer, Harab Meir aliba de Rab Akiva. Reb Meir had two influences in his life. He had two Rebbeim. He had Rabbi Eliezer as a Rebbe, and he had Rabbi Akiva as a Rebbe. And these two contradictory opinions between Rabbi Meir on the Brais on Amud Beis and Rabbi Meir on the Brais on Amud Aleph, they're Rabbi Meir's telling us what he learned from one Rebbe and then from another Rebbe.
He also had Elisha ben Abuya.
He also had
Acher as a Rebbe.
Yeah,
Didn't?
I guess he didn't quote from him this time.
What?
I guess this time he's not quoting from him.
Okay.
The Tanya. Al kain ye'azev ish es aviv v'asimu. That's what the Torah says to Adam. Al kain ye'azev ish es aviv v'asimu v'davak v'ishto. So there's two ways to darshan this passage. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Rabbi Meir's Rabbi Eliezer darshans it in the following fashion. Aviv, when it says Al kain ye'azev ish es aviv, it doesn't literally mean his father. It means achois aviv. It means his father's sister. And imoi means achois imoi. So, and these are all chayvei krisos. And Rabbi Kiva says aviv is eshes aviv, and imoi is imoi mamish, which are chiyuvim of Mrs. Best. Vidovak, it says vidovak b'ishtay. The word vidovak says v'loy b'zocher. That says he's not allowed to do mishkav zocher. Rashi says because it's not called dibuk. Why is it not called dibuk? Because it's not a relationship that they're going to stay together. Be'ishtoi v'loy beishes chavei. From there you learn that a guy cannot have relations with an eshes. What's called a marriage? Mishanasim basar echad yatu behema b'chaya sheim nasim basar echad. A behema and a chaya with a human, Zok Rashi, can never conceive, so that it's not considered that they're nasim k'basar echad. So let's have a look at Rashi to see how the two shittas develop and how it fits in, like the brisa of Reb Meir on Amud Beis and the brisa like Reb Meir on Amud Aleph. So Zok Rashi, Reb Meir, Talmud shel shneim hoya. Reb Meir was a Talmud of Sai Rabbi Eliezer and Sai Rabbi Akiva. Kedamar Reb Maseches Beyag Reb Litrik Tziois. Reb Meir Aimer Amar Reb Eliezer Ryan. From Maseches Eruvin Amar Reb Meir Shamish es Rabbi Akiva. He was Meshamish Rabbi Akiva. So now Rashi first says, "Ha de katani achaisai asur eloi." That we learned here on Amud Aleph, that a goy is not allowed to marry his sister. The eishes aviv muteres loi, but he's allowed to marry his father's wife, Reb Meir he Mishum Reb Elazar. That is what Reb Meir is saying over from Reb Elazar. And the high that we learned from Reb Meir on Amud Beis, the Katani Chai Vemises Nestrulem, the Loy Krisos, that Reb Meir he Aliba de Reb Akiva. So therefore, yes, the two brises have two different opinions quoted in the name of Reb Meir, but that's because Reb Meir is quoting one opinion from Reb Eliezer and one from Reb Akiva. So Reb Meir on Amud Beis is going according to Reb Akiva, and Reb Meir on Amud Aleph is going according to Reb Elazar. Okay, Gevalti. So now let's get down to the nitty gritty of what is the svara between, to argue between Reb Elazar and Reb Akiva. Amar Mar. Reb Eliezer Omer, Aviv means Achois Aviv. And that means even a Chai V'Krisos. Reb Eliezer Omer, Aviv is Achois Aviv. Why does Reb Eliezer say that? Ema Aviv Mamish. Maybe when it says Azav is Aviv, maybe it means not having relations with his father. Maybe it means literally that. Why would you say it means a Chayz Aviv? So Marcus Hainu V'Davak V'Loi B'Zocher. We already know the Isser of Mishkav Zocher. So therefore, Aviv here must mean a Chayz Aviv. Frank the Gemara, Ema Eishes Aviv. Who said it means a relation? His father's sister. Maybe it means a marriage. Maybe it's Eishes Aviv. Zakta Gemara, no, Eishes Aviv is an Eishes Ish. We already know that for the pasuk because it says Hainu be'ishtoi v'loi be'Eishes Chaveirai. Frank Gemara, maybe it's Eishes Aviv after his father dies, so she's no longer an Eishes Ish. Maybe that's what the pasuk means when it says Yazov is Aviv. Ema lachamisa. Zakta Gemara, Domi de'imoi. The pasuk says Al ken Yazov is Aviv ves imoi. So the woman referred to by Aviv has to be similar to the woman referred to by Imoy. Ma Imoy, the Lavishus. Just like the relationship with his mother is not a relationship through marriage. It's a relationship of a relation, of a family relation, a blood relation, af aviv the Lavishus. So too, when we say aviv, it means the type of relation that's not through a marriage, which is the father's sister and not the father's wife. Imoy is a chois Imoy, the sister of his mother. Fragt Gemara be'ema Imoy mamish. Maybe Imoy means mamish's mother. Zakt Gemara, no. Hainu be'ishtoi v'loi be'eshes chaveirai. His mother is an eshes ish. She is his father's wife. Fragt Gemara be'ema lachamisa. Maybe it's saying that it's also been to live with his mother, even if she's no longer married to her father because his father died. Zakt Gemara dumi daviv. If we want to say Imoy means something similar to the father. Ma aviv the lav mamish. Just like aviv doesn't mean the father himself. It means the father's sister. Av Imoy, so too, when the Torah says Imoy, the lav mamish, it doesn't mean mamish's mother. Rabbi Kiva had a different set of arayos that are prohibited to a guy, and he learns Aviv is Eishes Aviv. So he doesn't learn it's the sister of his father. He learns, in fact, that it is the wife of his father. I the ema Aviv mamish, the same kasha we asked according to Rabbi Eliezer. So Gemara, Hainu v'Davak v'loi b'Zocher. Frank the Gemara, Ihachi Eishes Aviv Nami. Ihachi Eishes Aviv Nami should be usher as well because Hainu v'Ishtoi v'loi b'Eishes Chaver. Right? So the Gemara, no, it means la'achar misa. It means la'achar misa, where a guy is prohibited to marry the wife of his father. Imoy means Imoy Mamish. So Rabbi Kiva learns that Imoy means Imoy Mamish. Imoy Mamish, isn't that Hainu v'Ishtoi v'lo be'eshes chavei, right? So no, it could be Imoy Manu Sasai. It's possible that his mother was never married to his father. His mother conceived him because his father was Ma'anaser. Okay, so b'mai kamifim, we had two ways to learn the pasuk. Is Aviv Eishes Aviv or is Aviv Achois Aviv, right? So why did Rabbi Kiva go one way and why did Rabbi Eliezer go the other way? Zokmar Rabbi Eliezer Savar, Rabbi Eliezer holds, turning on to other days, Aviv is Dumya De'im. When we look at the relation of Aviv, it should be similar to the relation of Imoy, and the Imoy Dumya Aviv. The only type of relation you could consider is La Mishkachas La Ela Ba'achva. It could only be referring to a family relative, not an erva That's through marriage, it can only be described as a relative because of a blood relation. As Rashi says, the tarvayu mamish lekala memar. You can't say aviv means aviv mamish and imay means imay mamish. Because aviv can be aviv mamish in kain hainu v'davik b'loy b'zocher. That we've already established. The tarvayu b'ishus lekala memar. You can't say they're both isurim that come from marriage. His mother's not usher to him because of marriage. That's a blood relative. The only way to say that the isur of imay and of aviv in the pasuk are similar is if it's referring to a blood relative through the mother or through the father. Rabbi Kiva said, no, I won't be able to learn them as parallel because mutav l'ukmin be'eshes aviv. When it says aviv, I don't want to learn pshat that it means my father's sister. I bedavka want to learn that the pshat is my father's wife. You know why? The ikri ervas aviv. We're talking about erva here. So Rabbi Kiva wants to touch the pasuk of Alkein Yazav Adamas Avives Imai as referring to prohibitions of erva which can only come through marriage. Lafuka Echayis Aviv, it's not called ervas aviv. His father's sister is called she'er aviv. It's called his flesh. Because it's a blood relation. So Rabbi Kiva doesn't want to learn that that's what aviv means. He wants to learn it's a issur that comes to marriage. Ikri, so the she'er aviv ikri, eres aviv lo ikri. So therefore, if you're going to learn that it's referring to eshes aviv, that's somebody who does not have a chiv misa. So that will be Rabbi Kiva. And if you learn that it's she'er aviv, that's something that is only a chayve krisos, and that's something that's only a chayve krisos. So that's Rabbi Lezer who holds that even by a chayve krisos it's asher tova. Zok Gemara weiter. Tashma vayikach Amram es yecheva deidasa. Amram married his aunt. So my love deidasa min must be his mother's sister. Well, if he married his mother's sister, clearly Aben Noach is allowed to marry his mother's sister. So that is a raya to Rabbi Kiva against Rabbi Eliezer. Zok Gemara, no, loy deidasa min av. When Amram married his aunt because it was his father's sister, not his mother's sister, or they didn't share a mother, they shared a father. Tashma, the gam omno achoisi bas avihi achloi basi. That's what Avram. I'm sorry. Correct. Okay. The gam omno achoisi bas avihi achloi basi. Zogt Gemara mechlal. It seems to be that Avram was trying to justify how he was allowed to marry her. So Mechlal the Basa a Masura. It's mashma that if it's through the mother, it would be Aser, which supports Rabbi Eliezer, not Rabbi Kiva. Frank Gemara Tizbra, Achoise Havoi. Sarah was not the sister of Avram. Bas Achav Havoi. It was a niece. So anyway, the words of the pasuk are not literal. And since we're talking about a niece, not a sister, that doesn't make a difference. Either way, it would be mutter. So there's no issue here, not according to Rabbi Kiva, not according to Rabbi Eliezer. All Avram was saying is, I have a relation with her through the father, not through the mother. Not because one will be usher and one will be mutter. It's just that Avram Avinu was trying to be honest as to what was going on. Toshma. The Brisa asks, so why didn't Adam marry his own daughter? Maybe he was allowed to marry his daughter. It's because otherwise, who would Cain have married? He had to leave a woman over for Cain to marry. So it was a chesed. It was a chesed that Adam didn't marry his own daughter, and he allowed her to marry his son Cain. It's a mashmat if it wasn't for Kia Marti Olam Chesed Yibana, a special Ira Shah, so that Cain can have a wife. It's also for someone to marry their sister. Zok Gemara, not true. Even history. Once Kadosh Baruch Hu was materit Levnei Noach to Kayin, now it became muter in Gansen to marry your sister. Okay, gewaltig. Zog to Gemara, Amar Rav Huna. Goy muter bevitay. A goy is allowed to marry his daughter. If that's the case, so why didn't Adam marry his daughter? So the Gemara, but really Adam could have married his daughter. V'ikadamri, Amar Rav Huna, Goy asher bevitay. A goy is not allowed to marry his daughter. Teda, I can prove it. Adam es bitay, because Adam didn't marry his daughter. Obviously, he's not allowed to. But it's not a raya, because we already said there's a special reason why Adam would not have married his daughter. So that Cain would have a woman to marry. It's actually brought down that Lloyd's daughters didn't do anything wrong, but Lloyd did something wrong because Lloyd, yeah.
Cain could have married Hevel's wife.
Sorry,
Cain could have married Hevel's wife.
Hevel's wife was also Adam's daughter.
Right. So you said, why didn't he marry his daughter?
Adam could have married both. Adam could have married all of his daughters. It's a man's world. I'm not sure why the Torah B'dafka refers to Cain's wife and not Hevel's wife, because I think the same svara goes both ways. Amar Chista, did Hevel have children, or did
Hevel's wife was available?
Did Hevel get married, or was he killed before he got married?
Well, Hevel got married. He was born with a sister. So was Cain.
Yeah, but did he marry her before Cain killed him?
I don't know. We don't know that.
So maybe he doesn't discuss Hevel because maybe Hevel never got married.
Maybe.
Amar Chista, Eved muter be'imay. An Eved is a hybrid. He's allowed to marry his mother like a goy can, but muter bevitay. And he's also allowed to marry his daughter. Why? Because Yotza Mechlal Chuti, he's not considered a goy, and therefore he's not prohibited from marrying his mother or his daughter. But Ulechlal Yisrael Leiba, but he's not a Yid either. So he's what we would say Nishti Nishtaher. So he has the din of a Katan Shanoy Ladami. So he's not related to anybody anymore, but he's not a Yid. Zok to Gemara, Ki Aser Avdimi Omer Abalazar Omer Kanina. Benoyach sheyiched shivcha la'avdoi. A Benoyach that was miyached a shivcha to his eved, ubala, and then he was bala neragala. He gets killed for it. And now this is not a rayas because there was never a bia, as we learned yesterday. Goyim don't recognize anything other than a bia, but this must be because of Geneva, like we learned yesterday. Me'emas. At what point do we consider her designated to the Evet that it would be considered Geneva? When they call this woman, oh, this is this Evet, this is John's woman. So how does a divorce work? How does a woman become disconnected from her man? When she walks with her uncovered hair, even Goyim in those days, married women covered her hair. If she walks around with her hair uncovered, that shows she's disconnected from her husband. If a guy was ba on his wife, shaloi kedarka, chayiv, he'll be chayiv misa for it. Shenemar v'davak, it says v'davak means a normal bia, v'loi shaloi kedarka. A benoich does not have the right to be ba shaloi kedarka. Amar Rava, Zok Rava, that's not logical. Mika midi the Yisrael loy mechayiv, v'kusi mechayiv. We know a yid who's ba on his wife shaloi kedarka. There's nothing wrong with that. Yet a goy has a problem. We know that we never have something that would be usher to a goy, that would be mutter to a yid. Zaktimor ela Amar Rava. Let's modify what I'm saying. Ben noyach shabal eishes kaveir. A ben noyach who was mizana with an eishes shish, and he would normally get killed for being mizana with an eishes shish. If it was shaloi kedarka potter, that wouldn't be considered znus for a goy. He wouldn't get killed for being boil and eishes shish shaloi kedarka. My time, it says v'davak v'ishtoi v'loi b'eishes chaveir. How do we know that a guy is not allowed to have relations with an Eshes Ish? Because it says Be'ishtoi v'loi be'eshes chaveiroi. But it says only Dibuk is Asur be'eshes chaveiroi. The Davak v'loi shaloi kedarka. Being boil a woman shaloi kedarka does not qualify as V'davak, and therefore the guy would not be prohibited from doing that. But a Yid who was boiled Eshes shaloi kedarka, Mishkevei Isha, Avada that be a Chiv Misa. Amar Abchanina, Loi bit kechavim shehike es Yisrael. If a guy merely hits a Yid, Chayiv Misa. The guy is Chayiv Misa. Shenemar, Moshe, Vayiven Koi V'choi. Moshe turned in each direction. V'yar ki einish, v'yachas a mitri, and he hit the mitri. And the mitri, it doesn't say that he killed anybody. The mitri just hit somebody. V'yomer Abchanina, I'm sorry? No. Oh, I mean, so your question is, how do goyim know about the Sheva Mitzvahs B'Dinoyah that they can be held liable for?
This is the Sheva Mitzvah.
Yeah, yeah. V'omer Abchanina, hasoiter lo yishol Yisrael. If you slap a yid across the face, ki'ilu soiter lo yishol Shechina, as if you're hitting the Shechina. Shenemar mukosh adam yela kodesh. I'm sorry. Well, how do they know all of the Sheva Mitzvahs B'Dinoyah? So the Gemara says, for the fact that the Torah punishes for it, they must have been told at some time. Who told them? When were they told? I don't know. But they must have been told. That does not mean in every generation Hashem comes and tells them no. But the same way our grandparents were informed, their grandparents were informed. Well, they should have been served as well. So let's see what it says over here. Vayachas Mitri mishum dehika ish ivri. The Mitri merely hit an ish ivri. Okay, Zog to Gemara weiter. Now we're going to be talking about hitting. Amar Shlokish, Hamakbia Yadoi, Makbia Abdoi, Shabbos Simon. Amar Shlokish, Hamakbia Yadoi Achaveir. If somebody merely lifts his hand up to strike another Yid, Avabi Shaloi Keu, even though he didn't actually hit him, Nikra Rasha, the Torah calls him a Rasha. Shinamar, because it says in the Pasuk, Moshe told the person, was Dustin in the Viram, he told them, Russia, he told the Russia, so he's identified as a Russia. Lama Saka. Why are you going now in the future to hit your friend? It doesn't say Lama Hikisa Reyecha. It doesn't say that Moshe said, why did you hit your friend? Why are you going to hit your friend? Lama Saka. He's referred to as a Russia with his intent to hit even before he actually hit. No, it means he stands up. Amar Abziri, Amar Abchanina, Nikra Choyte is called the Choyte. Shenemar. It says by the Bnei Eli, they threatened that if you don't give me your portion, the Matnas Kuna, from your carbon, we're going to grab it away from you. Vimloi, you don't give it to us, Lakachti b'chazaka, we're going to take it away. Rashi says, what do you mean take it away? You intimidate somebody. You better give it to me. So they merely held their hands up. Uksiv, Batahi, Chatas, Hadaorim, Gedoyla. The Torah considered it a terrible avera that they picked up their hand in a threatening gesture to coerce the people to give them their korbanos. His hand should be cut off. Shenamar uzroya rama, a raised arm, tishaver should be broken. Rav Huna Katsiyada. Rav Huna actually cut off the hand of somebody who merely raised it up to hit somebody. And Rashi tells us that they're allowed to make a siyaga together. When they see that there's an issue, Chazal is allowed to do that. Rabbi Lezer Omer ein lo takana elekfua. The only takana for somebody who picks up his hand to hit somebody is to bury him. He needs to die. Shnemar vizroya aloya aretz. A man who's a strong arm, he belongs in the ground. He should be in real estate. Yomer Belazar lo nitna karka ela lebali zroyos. Shnemar veish zerua loya aretz. Rashi learns that if you want to be in the real estate business, you got to be a tough guy. You got to be a Baal Zroya. Because whenever you buy land, there's going to be error, there's going to be fights. So you need to be able to be a tough guy to defend your land. If you work hard and you work your land and you plow it and you weed it, then you'll have a lot of lachem because you'll have a good yield. Then the Mashah questions, what is the connection between this and what we're saying beforehand? So the Mashah says, Lulei Rashi, I would have said otherwise. And when it says the Ish Roya Loya Aretz, it doesn't mean he's a tough guy who fights to defend his land. It means someone who's a big, strong arm, meaning he could work hard to service his property. Such a person should have land, not a tough guy. And then it segues right into what Rish Lakish said, is that someone who works his land will have success. I hear. If a guy keeps Shabbos, he's chayiv misa. Shinemar, it says after the Mabul, v'yoyim v'layla lo yishpoisu. Rashi is not only talking about the seasons, it's speaking about people. You're not allowed. A ben is not allowed to rest. We know if the Torah merely tells a ben not to do something, that means if he does it, he will be chayiv misa. Amar Avina afilu sheni b'Shabbos. That a goy can't rest, it doesn't mean if he rests on Shabbos, he's chayiv misa. Any day of the week that he rests, he'll be chayiv misa. Because lo yishpoisu means he's never allowed to have a day of rest. Frank Gemara, if a guy is never allowed to have a day of rest and he gets killed for it, the lich shevenam gabe zayin mitzvahs. So why wasn't that listed as one of the sheva mitzvahs b'nei that they're not allowed to rest? So Gemara kika choshev shev al taseh. The only type of things that are listed in the sheva mitzvahs b'nei are things that the Torah says you may not do this. Here Hashem says you must work. Kum vasei like a choshev. Those aren't listed in the list of malachas that are usher to a guy. By dinim also, we're saying go be proactive, make a bezin. The kachoshev and it is listed. Zok Gemara, that's a kumasei of v'shov al tasa, because that bezin is only to stop people from doing bad things. So we really want to say you shouldn't violate law. There should be common law that should be accepted. The enforcement isn't the main chiyuv of dinim. It's that there should be a just society. So therefore, it's a shov al tasalinu. That's why it's listed in the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei. Okay, Baruch Hashem, we were zoicha to finish Daf Nun Ches, which is both noyach and chen. We could relax, and we have chen. And tomorrow we're going to learn Nun Tes, not. Okay, Gavaltik.